Hey, family, and welcome back to Her Reality Check. I am your host, Madison Johnson, and you already know the tea. This podcast is all about love, the good, the bad, and the delusional. And yes, I've been that girl, and sometimes still am. But I stand on this. God did not create us to settle, so grab your wine, get comfy, and let's dive into today's reality check because, y'all, I am so excited. When I first decided I wanted to start a podcast, this was the first episode I wrote, and I searched day and night looking for the perfect guest, and y'all, I found her. But yes, the title of this episode is Dating and Waiting, and we will be discussing what it's like dating in today's society as someone who is dating God's way and aligning their romantic relationships with Christian values and principles. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce my beautiful guest, Miss Lydia Turner. Claps for her. So
I'm super excited to be here. Thank you so much, Madison, for inviting me.
Of course.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give y'all a little introduction on who she is. She's a 5-time certified personal trainer and faith-based health and wellness coach here in Dallas. Once on track to become a doctor of physical therapy, she answered God's call to empower women to build sustainable health habits rooted in faith. After giving her life to Christ in 2023, Lydia now helps women embrace their bodies as temples of the Holy Spirit, find strength in Christ, and live with confidence. That's beautiful. So yeah, y'all, when I was looking for a guest, like I was on Instagram and then I came across your page, I was like, oh, like I feel like she would be perfect because I wanted someone who had gone through an experience, gone through something and showed the shift into how God can like really transform your life,
Yes.
And so I was like, I feel like she's going to be perfect. And we're going to have to talk about the health and wellness thing because I'm trying to get in the gym, girl. I'm trying.
I'd love to.
But yes, welcome. So the wine of the day is actually sparkling cider, y'all. So
Martinelli's.
Yes, Martinelli's. It's the I don't think it's a specific flavor. Yeah, it's just, this is the one that my mom used to always get us for 4th of July and New Year's Eve. So I remember on my birthday, we were always drinking Martinelli's. So y'all got to try it. It's really good. So yeah, y'all, I'm super excited. And especially this topic of dating and waiting is like really personal for me. I think that's why it was the first episode I wrote because at a young age, I did a True Love Waits class and I made the decision to wait until marriage. And so that's been hard, but it's a journey that I'm glad God took me on. So I'm really excited to kind of get into the conversation today. So yeah, I want you to first, before we get into everything, tell us and the people listening a little bit about your story and your testimony.
So, I grew up in the church, but I had zero knowledge of who God was or anything about Jesus. So I kind of was just going because that's where my friends were going and because my parents were Christian. So I grew up in a typical Christian household. Like, you can't watch Harry Potter, like all the things. Yeah. And, I went to college and I was like fully, in the world and just confused, honestly. And just growing up as an overweight little girl, like that just comes with so much that people really don't talk about. It comes with so much insecurity. It comes with just people pleasing. It comes with just like attaching so many things to your identity and just feeling like you're not really a person that's valued and seen. And so I went to college and I started studying kinesiology because I just thought that the body was interesting, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. And so I remember I started working out my second year in college and I loved it. I started off in classes and I kind of just worked my way down to the weight room and I kind of tried everything until I found what I really wanted to do. So initially I went to school for physical therapy and I ended up dropping out to continue to make content and to do personal training full time as a business owner. And during that time, I was like really on Instagram a lot and I was posting a lot. And during that time, I was so lost. Honestly, like I was posting for all the wrong reasons. Like I will always say like, posting photos like from the back, and just everything being about my body and everything just being very surface level and superficial. And it was because like I wanted to be what we refer to now as like an it girl. I wanted to be that girl. So I was posting, I was like super like resilient, honestly, about growing an audience and growing a following. And I was, and it was growing pretty fast. And I remember one time I looked at my insights after sitting with some girls. We were talking about it. And I remember looking at my insights one day and I had 99% men. And it was such a disgusting feeling.
Really?
Yes. It was such a disgusting feeling because, like, not because, men are bad people, but because that's who wanted to follow me. Like, why do women want to follow me? And it was kind of like a slap in the face where it was just a reflection of what I was posting and putting out there about myself. And I didn't like how I represented myself. And at the time, like, I'm going to the clubs, I'm in the sections, like, I'm trying to be around, like, I guess, high profile type of people. But I would always just feel so empty after those experiences. And it just all felt very superficial to me. And I've always been a person that's loved, like, authentic people. And I've loved diverse people. And so I just feel very lost during that time. I was working so hard. I was grinding, and looking up and feeling so lonely in those moments where I hit, I guess, all of my goals. Like, I'm fit, like, I got followers, I'm in these sections, but I still feel so empty. And, if you have a goal your whole life to get somewhere, when you finally get there, if you don't have God, it feels very empty and pointless. And so I experienced that firsthand. I experienced that feeling, and it was not fun. So I ended up falling into depression for the first time, and I just didn't want to leave my bed. I got rid of all my online clients. I really kind of stopped posting and everything. The only thing that I did was train my clients in person, and I would just throw on a smile, go train them, and then go right back home, get right back in my bed. And it was like that for a few months. And then I just started to, like, have conversations with the Lord. I started to pray, and I started to attend a church due to some recommendations on my story. And I went to that church, and I loved how it felt. I loved the representation of women who looked like me everywhere. And I needed to see that. I needed to see men my age, that were attractive, that served the Lord too. And just through being around that type of environment, it made me want to keep coming. And so I developed a personal relationship with the Lord. Like, he became like my best friend. And to experience him in that capacity versus somebody telling me, I got to experience him for myself. And through that relationship, I genuinely grew a love for God. And once I had that love for God, I genuinely wanted to tell everybody about him. I genuinely wanted to share his joy and love and peace with other people because I experienced it firsthand. And once you come across something like that, you want to tell everybody about it. So I ended up getting baptized that following year in 2023. And ever since then, it's just been just walking in purpose, really.
I love that. Yes. Like, I can see the love and the fire you have for God, like, as you're speaking, like, in your eyes. People say eyes are the windows to the soul, and it's just so, like, genuine, and, like, I see God's light through you. So I'm really happy for you. And
Thank you.
I was actually, like, I was on your page, and I saw it was do you go to Social Dallas?
Yeah,
that's where I go to. Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's a big church, so
It is.
you don't see a lot of people, but yes, we recently just started going there a couple of months ago, and the first time we went, it was Pastor Robert, it was his wife Taylor, she was preaching, and I think it was the relationship series they were in, and me and my mom went, and we were just like, we're coming back, and we never stopped. So
good.
Yes, we love it, and I'm so happy for you. Like, that
Thank
is
you.
truly a beautiful testimony, and I can relate to that feeling of kind of going out and wanting to be around these things that you feel like will fulfill you, and it's like, oh yeah, like, we're here, like, people like me, and this, and it's fun, but it's like something's still missing. And then I resonate with that feeling, because I think it was after my birthday. We had like a section at a club, and it was fun. I was like, oh yes, like, this was great. And then the next morning I woke up feeling, I was like, yeah, God's not pleased with me. Like, he did not like that. And so it was like, yeah, I had enjoyed my birthday, but I was like, any other birthday I have it's not going to be like this. Like, maybe I just felt like I needed to get it out of my system because this is what I wanted to do. But I know deep down this is not what God has for me. And it's really not what makes me happy at the end of the day. So
I was just about to ask you. I was just about to say, did you like your birthday?
Yeah, everyone was like, no, like, it was fine. Like, yeah, it was your birthday. You're supposed to turn up. And I was like, yeah, but it wasn't for me. Like, I didn't feel like, oh, this was just the best experience ever. Like, it was more so like, okay, God needed me to see this to know that this is not what I want. You know what I'm saying? I just needed that one experience to see. So that's definitely good.
I love that.
So you talked about a lot of things in your testimony.
I did.
Yes, and I love that, because it's such a beautiful journey.
Yeah.
Do relationships or dating, have they fit in anywhere? Did anything happen with that?
Yeah, I think that it did. Like, when I first started, I'll say this, like, during that time, I wanted what all the girls, I guess, on TikTok are wanting. I wanted like that high profile man or like that professional athlete. I wanted that lifestyle,
Yeah.
you know? And so I was trying to put myself into those spaces. But when you're in those spaces, there's things that come with that. You know, there's all this competition. You know what I'm saying? There's all
Yeah.
these women that also want that too. And so you're putting yourself in an environment, you know, where you know what you're finna get. And honestly, it started to change me. You know, and I'm seeing a lot of people be unfaithful. And it's like a culture that's all around you. It kind of molds your mind where like I remember at one point, like I started almost entertaining the idea of being okay with sharing somebody. Like
Really?
if you're, yeah, like if I was dating like a professional player, like, and he had his little side pieces, like if I'm around everybody and everybody is fine with it because they're chosen or whatever, I'm gonna have that same mindset.
Yeah.
And so I remember getting to a place where I was just kind of like entertaining the idea of it, you know, just so lost, you know, and just so just a product of that environment.
Yeah.
And so whenever I shifted and I started going on my walk with Christ, I just got out of a relationship. And so that was another reason, you know, just being depressed and all the things. I just wanted to be alone, like by myself and just figure that out. So I was single for that, you know, time. And then I ended up getting back into the same relationship. And then that relationship ended. But I think that relationships definitely have played a role because that side of me that had that people pleasing, like part of that was attached to men
Yeah.
and their approval. So I think that it's been a journey to like finding what love looks like with Christ, and also like how to serve, and like what is the purpose of marriage, and like
Yeah.
what does preparing yourself for marriage look like, and just being okay with being alone, and also just like being intentional and having discernment about dating, you know, and I know what no looks like.
Yeah.
Because the Lord did tell me no about some things and I didn't listen, and I paid, and I had consequences for those decisions that I made. And I've also experienced what it looks like when you say yes. And I would not want to date without God ever again.
Yeah.
For sure.
I think it's crazy how you mentioned like seeking approval, because I can definitely understand that sometimes it's like you want to say like, oh yeah, I'm confident, I'm this and I'm this, but at the end of the day it was still wanting that need for someone to be like, oh yeah, like you look nice, or this is pretty, or you fine, or something like that. It's like you still kind of want that acceptance, and it's hard to get rid of. But you learn like once you fill yourself with like God's love, it's like you don't need anybody else to really fill that void. And I'm learning that, I mentioned it on my last episode, that you'll know when you're ready to get in a relationship or find someone, because you're going to be whole with yourself. You know, you're not going to be looking for your missing piece, because you already are complete the way God made you. This will just be an addition that can like add to your life.
Yeah.
And I want to talk a little bit more about what it looks like to date God's way, because you mentioned like you started entertaining the idea of possibly sharing someone. And when you aren't dating with God, or like how God wants you to do it, sometimes you allow those secular worldly thoughts to come in and be like, you know what, it's okay. And you'll learn sometimes you get so far from God that you don't even really feel bad about it. You're like, you know what, maybe it is okay. And so you start kind of trying to relate to like, okay, so I see maybe what people now say about how the Bible is like, oh, it's kind of old fashioned, like we're in a new era now, we're in a new thing. So you kind of start to relate to that, even though you know that's not right. You know what I'm saying? And so you start thinking, okay, maybe this is okay. Maybe this is not that bad. And then once you start doing it, you're like, okay, maybe it's not, but that's how you know you've gone too far, when you don't feel that conviction.
Yeah.
So I want to read a verse to you. It's from 2 Corinthians 6, 14 through 15. It says, do not be yoked together with unbelievers. For what do righteousness and wickedness have in common? Or what fellowship can light have with darkness? And then it says, what does a believer have in common with an unbeliever? And I think that's really important when it comes to dating God's way, because you have to be equally yoked with your partner. Y'all have to be on that same playing field. I've seen my friends get in relationships with people who beliefs and morals and values don't really align with theirs, and the surface level conversations might be great, and maybe the sexual intimacy part might be great, but you're still missing this, and you can't have that future aspect when y'all aren't aligned. So it's only going to go so far. So I kind of want to see your thoughts on that.
Absolutely. I mean, we know that the Bible is absolute truth, right? And it's beautiful how like the more mature you get in Christ, the levels that are unlocked. Right. So I definitely agree with what you said. I think that for me, I don't think that I could date an unbeliever. And
Yeah.
it's not because of like some preference. I think it's because genuinely like the basis of like who I am as a person, like I am a new person.
Yeah.
And you won't understand anything about me because I'm fully submerged in my creator. And it's like, if you don't know anything about him, you won't know anything about me. And so when I have how I've learned about marriage and how I've learned about love is now rooted in Christ. So when I tell you everything makes so much more sense, everything makes so much more sense. And so if I'm with somebody and they don't understand the concept of abstinence and they're constantly trying to get me to have sex with them, they don't understand like how much that affects me.
Yeah.
Right? So they won't understand abstinence. They won't understand why I am going to church so much, or they won't even understand my friends. Because honestly, I'm around a village of believers. So they won't even understand my friends. They won't understand the culture of my life. They won't understand why I'm serving. And they might tell me to stop doing certain things, or they might give me worldly advice and say, well, they're not doing that for you, so why are you still doing it? That's a worldly perspective. So you're giving me worldly advice. So it's so many levels on why I personally couldn't date somebody who's not a believer and somebody who is like a born again Christian, because there's just certain things that we stand by. There's certain principles that I build my life on and I build my perspective on that are rooted in the word of God.
Yeah.
And so for me, that's a non-negotiable for sure.
Definitely. I was talking to a friend of mine is actually an ex, and we were having conversations. We dated super, super young. So now having a conversation again, I was like, we just beat butt heads on everything. I'm like, oh yeah, a man is supposed to lead. He's like, I don't understand that perspective. Like we just bump heads on everything. I'm like, I don't even understand how we ever got along at 16. And I was like, okay, but I was 16. But now I'm like, as I've grown and matured to the person I am today, I just see how we could just never align, because my relationship with God and how I view dating and marriage and waiting is just, we're like on opposite sides now. So we're just not going to agree. And I think I've had to come to that conclusion that it's just never going to be compatible. Like I don't think I could ever be compatible with someone who doesn't believe that waiting is important, who doesn't understand the value and why I chose to do that, or someone who doesn't believe in going to church and spending time with God and talking to God, and like the importance of having your own personal relationship with him, not scrolling on social media and watching other people's interpretation of the Bible, actually building that own relationship for yourself. So,
and to your point real quick, the verse that you just read was talking about how light can mix with darkness. And when you think about living for God and living without God, that is essentially light and dark.
Yeah.
That's a very controversial take, because you know people might not see it that way, but you're either living for God or you're not. It's very simple. And with that being said, like if somebody has an issue, for example, of you waiting, right, because they have this sexual need, the reason why they're so driven by that is because they're living a life that's about themselves.
Yeah.
It's about their own desires. They're living a life that is self-seeking, and you're living a life that is serving Christ.
Yeah.
So they're living a life serving themselves, and you're living a life serving God. So y'all are in two different opposite places, and light and darkness can't mix, which is why you'll see God is just so brilliant, because you'll look on society, you'll look at these podcasts, and they're run by a lot of single people, and they'll be giving relationship advice to people, and they're single.
Yeah.
And this is where a lot of people these days are getting advice from. And what a lot of these people don't understand about their podcasts and about these avenues of talking about relationships is it is a gender war, you know, and it's all orchestrated by the enemy to separate people and to break apart this beautiful holy covenant that God created. God loves marriage. God ordains and he created marriage. And if you can get people to just point fingers and not like each other, then you get to destroy something so beautiful. And so these podcasts can be very detrimental. And so you're seeing a lot of people almost like form their mindset and form their logic off of somebody else's opinion.
Yeah.
And it's not rooted in anything real. It's because they heard somebody else said it and it made a little bit of sense, so they believed it as truth. But it's beautiful because we have an actual Bible that is actual truth.
Yeah.
So which is why when you come with truth and it cuts, it's just night and day different.
It is. I love that you said that, because when I started this podcast, I was like, I know a lot of people, I said, I want this to reach people who don't have a relationship with God. And I said, a lot of times people will say, oh, I have like a Christian podcast. I said, I don't want to label it as that, but as a podcast where we talk about dating and relationships rooted in God.
Yeah.
So I was like, that's going to be the difference. And I think that a lot of my audience are people that maybe don't have a relationship with God. And they're like, okay, you know what? Like, I could maybe see that perspective, because it's like you see all of the good things that happen when you date God's way, and when you move how He wants you to move. It's like, I kind of want that for myself, so let me try it out. And you don't
Yeah.
even realize you're following God, and that can pull more people towards Him. So
Yeah.
I think that's important. And you mentioned living your life for God. I wanted to bring back a point. I was talking to someone, and they were like, well, I live my life for me. And that kind of sent chills through my body. I was like, ooh, like,
They meant it too.
that's the problem. And I see now why this is not going to work, because
Yep.
I live my life for God, and I've always said that. Like, I see
Yeah.
that. And you mentioned abstinence. So I actually have that as a question on here. What is the difference between celibacy and abstinence? And it says when you stop having sex for God, it's called abstinence. Abstinence is when you choose to refrain from sex, usually until marriage, as a way to honor God and follow biblical teachings. And it's like you can abstain from other things like alcohol and things like that. Celibacy is a state of abstaining from marriage and sexual relations and things like that. So some people will like take a break from it and be like, oh, I'm celibate right now. But to be abstinent, like I've always said, I'm abstinent because I waited my whole life. So I think that was good. Do you think it's important to wait?
Absolutely. I wish, honestly, I wish I would have waited.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I wish that I would have waited until marriage.
Mm-hmm.
I think that that would have been a beautiful way to discover something that God created. I remember they were talking about this at church one time, but basically, like, how there's this container, and it's like God created sex,
Mm-hmm.
and He created it for it to be had in the container of marriage.
Mm-hmm.
So when you do it outside of marriage, you're opening yourself up to consequences.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we're seeing all kinds of things,
Mm-hmm.
like that's why we're seeing, people live together
Mm-hmm.
before they're married, and there's
Mm-hmm.
statistics that say that that leads to divorce.
Yeah.
So we've created like this culture that's normalized sex as a casual thing,
Mm-hmm.
and it's kind of like desensitized us to a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's caused a lot of problems, honestly. Like, it's caused issues in my life, like even in my friend's life, like there's a such thing as a soul tie, and
Mm-hmm.
so people don't understand that. And some people do, and they just don't care,
Yeah.
honestly. But I think that it's beautiful when a person comes to a place where they see the power of sex and they see how beautiful it is.
Mm-hmm.
And they make the decision to abstain from something that their body does crave. Because let's be honest, just because you're a Christian and you're saved does not mean that your sexual desires go away. They're still there. Okay. And so it's like, with that being said, I think it's beautiful when somebody decides to make that choice to refrain from something that their body literally, their flesh literally craves.
Mm-hmm.
To say to God, hey, I want to do this your way.
Mm-hmm.
I want to honor you in this way with my body. I love that verse where it talks about our bodies being a literal temple of the Holy Spirit.
I think I have that
and
one on
that
here.
we're
Yeah.
living sacrifices.
Yeah.
And that's literally you choosing every day to be a living sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when you do meet that person and you get married, I think that beautiful moment is like anointed,
Yeah.
and just like having conversations with my friends who waited, and they tell me their experiences. It's beautiful. Like, it's
Really?
anointed.
Yeah.
And you don't feel that guilt. You don't feel that shame, and it's beautiful. I think it's a beautiful gift, honestly, to give to your husband too. I kind of view it as like a gift, where it's like, I wouldn't want to bring a beautiful man of God a defiled vessel.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to bring him a body that's defiled, so whenever you go into the water and you get baptized and you come through, your new creation. And I love that process of sanctification where it's like, I am purifying my body and it's a holy vessel, and I want to present this holy vessel to my husband, and vice versa. I think that that's beautiful. You wouldn't want to be married to somebody who has this defiled body that has been through all these things, and they haven't really cared about themselves, And there's a reason why we all feel that way. We might have normalized it, but deep down, nobody wants that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really good. And I've had conversations with my friends too, and even guys, like when I tell them, I want to talk about something else a little bit in a minute, but I've had conversations. They're like, "Oh, you're waiting." I'm like, "Oh yeah." They're like, "Why?" I'm like, "Well, I did it at a young age, and as I got older, when I went through changes and phases in my life, I started wondering that too. I was like, why did I do this? Like, this is not fun. Like, and then as I kept growing and maturing, I was like, you know what? I'm glad I did this, because I didn't even realize all of the things that God was protecting me from by waiting. And I was like, as I look back on everything, I see God's hand on so many situations, and I'm like, if I would have done this or if I would have done this,
Yes.
that would have changed a lot of things for me.
Yes.
And so I stand on that decision. I'm like, I'm glad I did. And also I feel like it's taught me to channel like maybe my energy or like desires that I have onto something else. And so it's giving me like the push and motivation to do other things, because I'm like, okay, maybe if I'm feeling like I want to call someone, or if I want to do this, I'm going to go run, or I'm going to go to the gym, or I'm going to go do this, or I'm going to go work on this assignment, and just really channel that energy into something more productive.
Yeah.
And so it's definitely been helpful, and it's been good. And I feel like it's made me stronger. And back to your other statement you made, people assume that you just have no desires. I'm like, that's not the case at all.
Yeah.
Like, I face temptation. Sometimes it feels like it's 10 times harder because I don't act on it. So it's like it's constantly having to call on God and be like, okay, God, I asked God, I'm like, at this point, God, just remove these desires until I need them again so I can focus. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just don't want to deal with it right now, because sometimes it's like, okay, it's on my mind, and like the curiosity is there, the desires are there, but I know I don't want to act on it, but I don't want it to become a distraction in my life. So I don't want to start viewing people in a way of lusting after them versus loving them. So I'm like, take these desires and put them in my back pocket until I really need to like get into that. And that'll be when I'm married. I'm like, so allow me to focus and refocus my mind on you and what you have me to do. So definitely dealing with the love versus the lust can be difficult, which is why I think right now, on the last episode, we talked about the season of singleness. I think it's important for me to do what God has me to do right now, focus on myself and on Him, and then everything is going to align when it needs to. You know, a relationship, a godly relationship, and my person, and all those desires and feelings, because I used to worry like, oh, what if I'm not good at this? Or it's like, God is like, I'm going to take care of that. Girl, everything is going to come to you when you need it. So just don't worry about it.
And like the things that a godly man honors and prioritizes is different from a worldly man.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's also why it's good to have a village of believers around you, because if everybody around you is worldly, then you're going to feel that pressure all the time.
Yeah.
But if you're around people who are exactly like you, you'll be refreshed, like, okay, I'm not crazy.
Yeah.
Like when I go around my friends and they express things, it makes me feel like, oh, I'm not crazy.
Yeah.
And like one thing that happens whenever you do give your life to Christ is like, I don't know if everybody can relate to this, but for me, it's almost like I got resensitized to things again. And I didn't realize how numb I was to things until he resensitized me. And I remember I watched a movie that I've seen 1,000 times. But when I tell you, like, just like the sex scenes, it affected me so much different. And it was like my body was reacting to it. And I was just like, oh, I have to turn this off.
Yeah.
You know, and then I started listening to music, and something would be said, and I'll be like, that's a little OD. You know, like I'll be listening to it, I'll be like, I don't want to hear this.
Yeah.
You know, and then like you get on like Instagram and you see people that you've been following, and I'm just like, I don't want to see your body. You know, like I don't want to follow shirtless men anymore.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to follow, you know, women whose body is overly out there, because why am I following that? You know? And so it's like my eyes were just open to things, and I just became even aware of my own body. Like I will have something on and be like, dang, like this is kind of a lot, you know, like just different things. Like you're just resensitized, you know. And then you think about like adult explicit websites, right? And like when you actually think about it and you look up even just like statistics on like what that does to your brain, especially men's brain, and you're actually aware of like how that's affecting men and how they're not able to focus, how they're having higher levels of depression. And it's from addictions to those things. And I used to think that watching that with my partner was normal. You know, like I used to like think
because
that
it's normalized.
Yes. And I'm like, you just start to see like how dark and twisted all these things are that we've normalized. And you watch movies where like they're casually just having sex. Like it's like everywhere.
Yeah.
It's like overly exposed to you all the time. And so once you do, you know, get that resensitization, it's like you have to change your life. Like you have to change what you see and what you hear. And I think a lot of people are afraid of that process. But that process is so beautiful, and it's honestly like pretty seamless if you surround yourself with people who are doing the same thing. So I don't watch a lot of TV. And if I do, I am careful about what I watch. I still watch, you know, everything. I might fast forward through some stuff, you know, and like even when it comes to music, like I still listen to music, but like I just can't listen to stuff that's overly explicit. You know, it just like doesn't rub me the right way. and just different things. But that's definitely something that happened to me that was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because once you get that fire back for God or you rediscover it, it's like it's like the veil is lifted again and you're like, oh, okay, well, I was having this conversation with my sisters today. We were talking about things and we were like, thank God we got delivered. Like
Girl.
just thank God we're
Okay.
not what we used to be. And
Yep.
it's truly a blessing, but that's real when it comes to listening to music, TV, what you watch, all that stuff entering your spirit. My mom used to tell me like what goes in must come out. So like
Yes.
when you are responding to things or like when you get mad, your response is going to be based on what you've allowed to enter your body. So if you listen to music with like cursing and this and this and this all the time, like when you respond, that's what you're going to get. Like that's what's going to come
Yes.
out. And so I learned that and I was like, I was never really into explicit music, but even when I went to college, it's all around you. So you really have to minimize your time with those kind of things because if you're around it all the time, that's what you're going to become. I don't want to become like a product of this environment I'm in right now because I know who God has created me to be. So I need to
Yeah.
make sure I spend this time with him so I don't allow this music and these things that they're showing me and that I'm seeing around me to become who I am.
Yeah, and you influence your environment. Like I work in a gym, so gym you hear rap music all day.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm used to it and it doesn't really like bother me.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember I was working at my last gym and this was kind of right after I got saved. And when you get saved, it's almost like people got to test you to see if
Yeah.
you actually like meant it.
Yeah.
And once you keep that up for 6 months and plus they're like, oh, she for real, And so like I remember one time this song had came out. I think it was Future's album had just came out. And there was like this song on the album that's called like For a Nut. And it
Mm-hmm.
came on the radio and I remember hearing it and like hearing the lyrics and I was like and everybody was like bobbing their heads to it and I remember I said something but that's not I'll be chilling but I
Mm-hmm.
remember I was like can we skip the song
Yeah.
and they were just like yeah and so I went over to the iPad and I changed the song and they were just like what's going on I was like did you hear the lyrics like he's talking about flying out someone's girlfriend just for a nut I said let him do that to your girl
Yeah.
how you gonna feel he fly your girl out offer her some money and do that how would you feel and they were just like, dang, that song is actually kind of nasty and it's
Kind of
kind of dirty. And I'm
crazy.
like, that
Yeah.
song is crazy. Like, are you listening? Like, he just said what he said. But if it
Yeah.
happened to you singing or you're singing it,
Mm-hmm.
And it's just little stuff like that where like they'll say stuff and like sometimes you're called to be that light. You're called to be
Mm-hmm.
that person that points stuff out. And then people are like, oh, yeah, lyrics,
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's interesting for sure.
That's a whole other conversation about like the darkness behind music and you cover stuff up with like beats and this, but it's like listen to the lyrics, listen to what they're saying. It's crazy. But and then to your other point, you said God will call you to be that. I think that's why it's also important to have discernment and be able to hear God's voice clearly when he does want you to step in and be like, hey, actually like let's shift gears, let's change this song. Because
Yeah.
sometimes it's like you might be scared to, but it's like the more time you spend with God and the closer you get to him, that fear is going to be taken away and you're going to realize this is what I need to do at this moment. I need to step in and say something and kind of
Yeah.
shift the minds of the people around me because when it's people you love and sometimes you don't want to say too much or do too much because you're like, oh, they're going to say this, but sometimes it's needed. It's
Yeah.
necessary. You got to step in and you have to say something. And
Yeah.
I'm grateful to God for the friends he's placed in my life because we've had to do that with each other,
Mm.
And sometimes we're like, okay, girl, you knew better. Like we're delivered from this. We're better than this. And you're like,
Yeah.
you know what? You're right. Like,
Yeah.
I needed that reminder. Like, and we do that for each other. So it's definitely good to have friends and people around you in your circle that can hold you accountable.
Yeah, for sure.
So I love that. I have some other things to go back to what we were talking about, the waiting. It's a verse from Genesis 2:24. Therefore, a man shall leave his father and his mother and hold fast to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. And the man and his wife were both naked and not ashamed. And so when I was going through this last night because I had the script already written. I told you this was the first one I wrote, but I was like, I need to add more. Like I need to back this up with scripture so people who are listening don't think I'm just coming out of the like mind with this. Like this is real. So I kind of had a revelation. I was like, God designed sex to be within a marriage. It's a covenant under God. And my mom used to always tell me, like, if you wait until marriage, you and your partner are going to have something so special because, for one, it's under God, but y'all aren't going to see each other, anyone else, the way y'all see each other. And that's why God designed it that way. And so when I was reading the part and it says, and the man and his wife are both naked and not ashamed, I was like, it kind of makes sense that that's what God is trying to show us. Like, if you wait, you're not going to feel that shame when you're having sex if you do it my way. Like, and it started kind of, I was like, okay, you know what? Like, I like these little reminders because I'm 23 now. And I love to tell people, they're like, oh, I haven't done this in a while. I'm like, well, I haven't done this in 23 years. So I understand, but it's
That's
just
such a flex, by the way.
Thank you.
It is.
Sometimes it used to not feel that way. Sometimes it was almost
It's
I
a
didn't want to
flex.
even tell people, but thank you.
Because that's going to be a beautiful gift to give to your husband. Like, him knowing she's never been with nobody. I ain't got to worry about nobody. You know, like that's...
Thank you.
That. Yes.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's nice to have those little reminders to be like, okay, you know what? I'm on the right path. Like, this is what God has me doing. And
yes,
it was like a situation, I think I mentioned a little bit earlier, in college, how you just don't realize how God protects you from so many things. And I realized, it's a weird situation, but I want to do a whole like episode based on this story because it's really a part of my testimony. But you just see how God will truly protect you even when you don't realize it. And I look back on the situation, but I was talking to this guy that I thought I liked, and I found out that he was DL. And I was like, thank God I wasn't having sex and I didn't have sex with this man, because I would have been being intimate with a man who was also being intimate with another man at the same time. And I'm like, you don't even realize God's hand on situations, because that could have been terrible for me. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like things like that, looking back, it's like, even when I wasn't so close with God, it's like he was still right there with me. And so when people are like, oh, I feel like God is not there, it's like he is. Like, you don't even realize how he's walking right next to you, even when you're not paying any attention to him. So that's definitely a huge part of like my story. But really, you just got to thank God for the things that he aligns. It's like, who knew when I made this decision in like 6th grade to wait until marriage that this would have this big of an impact on me 10, 15 years later down. And he knew all of this was going to happen and play out the way it did. It's like, I didn't know. I didn't realize. I didn't understand why he kept saying like, okay, even though you want to do this, wait, just wait. And like when I would be with guys, they're like, how do you just like stop yourself? How do you not do that? I'm like, I just don't. I think part of it was like I made this promise to God and I don't want to break it, because I know, for one, will it even feel good? Because the guilt is going to eat me alive. I'm like, it's going to eat me alive because it's like, I've stuck with this for so long. You did it for 10 years. Okay, do it for 10 more. Do it, keep going. So I'm like, if I would have broken it, I just would have, I feel like I wouldn't have been able to live with myself with the guilt. I was like, so this is like the one thing, I made so many mistakes, but I'm like, this is the one thing I really need to follow through on. So.
And that's cool. And whenever they're like, how, like, people ask those questions because they're bound by that.
Yeah.
You know, and so if somebody's like amazed that you would stop having sex, that shows that they are bound by that. You know, because I'm like, you can do anything. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have the power to overcome anything.
Yes.
And so, and also like sex just clouds your vision. Like it clouds your discernment. Like, you could be real life just entertaining a whole demon. Like, they have nothing. They don't want to take you in public. They don't want to make you their girlfriend. They don't even really care about you. They're halfway listening to you. They're only listening to you to like get into your pants, right? I'm not saying that's everybody, but I'm saying you could be in a situation like that, but because y'all have already had sex, you have this attachment to them that you can't break because of purely something sexual. And I've been in those situations before where I have not been able to see what was really happening because I'm, you know, under this whole soul tie, and I'm just like, oh, this person, you know, they care about me or whatever, and they really don't. They might care, but they don't care about me enough to respect me.
Yeah.
You know, and I also have to take accountability for what I did to contribute to those situations. You know, if I put myself out there, if I'm in the club and I am, you know, sitting there with my booty all out or whatever, like, I'm kind of like putting out a message to a man, you know? So whenever I'm putting that out there and he trying to catch it, you know, I can't really be mad at him. You know, I put it out there. So it's just like, I know what I'm attracting because of where I'm at, you know? So it's just like, that's definitely, yeah, I think that you definitely have saved yourself from a lot of confusion. I think it definitely brings confusion to a lot of people because, like, think about it. Like, I always think about this. Like, I've met some people, just got different friends where they talk about different seasons of their life where they, you know, were out here having sex. And I just think about like soul ties, and I just think about how spiritual it is. And I'm like, so you're telling me that there's this many women that have pieces of you?
Mm-hmm.
You've given pieces of you to this many women, and you're wondering why you're all over the place, and you're wondering why you're struggling with all these things. Like, you've given yourself to all these people.
Mm.
And I also have asked my friends, like, do you not care about yourself? Like, honestly, like, do you not
Yeah.
care about yourself? And I'm like, society has taught men that that's a good thing. Like, that's a, that makes you a man. And it's like,
Yeah.
but also, like, if you really care about yourself, like, why are you sharing such an intimate part of yourself with so many people?
Yeah.
And vice versa for us. Why are you, allowing this person to be with you? You can't get
Mm-hmm.
mad at him because I'm like, you let him. So
Yeah.
it's just like an accountability factor there too, where it's like you have to also see yourself as somebody valuable enough to
Mm-hmm.
be like, no,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah. And I think that's why it's so important to make sure that you love yourself before you get into anything serious, because it's like you'll look past so many things
Yeah.
because you're seeking that validation and that comfort, and you're looking for something to fill that void, that empty void that for one only God can fill, but like the love for yourself and knowing that you're worthy, and then who he created you to be, and that your body is a temple. All of these different things that you need to recognize and understand before you can be with somebody. So that's
Yeah.
this is so good. I love this. But we talked about a little bit. I want to mention love versus lust.
Mm.
And I want to do a whole episode about this, but I just feel like we can't talk about relationships and things
Whew.
without bringing this up. But it's from 1 Corinthians 6:18 through 20. It says, flee from sexual immorality. Every other sin a person commits is outside the body, but the sexually immoral person stings against his own body. Or do you not know that your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit within you, whom you have from God? You are not your own, for you were bought with a price. So glorify God in your body.
Mm.
And I've had to learn that. And I think a lot of times, which I'm glad that you are a fitness instructor, because a lot of times we think about that verse and we think sex, but it's also in the things that you eat and the things that you watch. You have to make sure that you are just taking care of yourself and what's entering your body. Like, you have to
Yeah.
be mindful of that. So,
Yeah, it's like that's like my verse. Like, that's the verse for like faith and fitness, like my
really? Yeah.
organization. Yeah, because like that's essentially like that just changes your whole perspective. Like,
Mm-hmm.
before you think of like, okay, is this a sin or is this a sin? It's the more so the mindset of like, does this honor me as a person?
Mm-hmm.
And when you start thinking about stuff like that, it is convicting. Like, it is
Mm-hmm.
convicting. And I don't think a lot of people are really ready for that level of accountability,
Mm-hmm.
because it's like, when it comes down to it, how are you eating? How are you moving your body?
Mm-hmm.
And also, when you have sex with somebody, they're also entering you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, even in that way, how are you, is this honoring God? Like, what are you doing? Like, what are you watching? And it's like, what are you listening to? Like, all of these things, like, it's like all that is diet.
Yeah.
Your diet isn't just what you eat, it's like all of it. And it's like, what does your diet look like? And it's beautiful because you can just see the difference. Whenever somebody feeds themselves a spiritual diet, you can see the difference.
I love that, a spiritual diet. That's
Yeah.
we got to talk about that. That's good,
Yes.
because I I stopped eating after 8 o'clock, but I was like, I want to start taking better care of my health and like what I'm eating and what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And like when I get older, I want to still be able to be mobile, moving around, able to go on walks, go on runs, do what I need to do and stay active. So I think that's definitely important. But when it
Absolutely.
comes to the sexual immorality, and we talked about how our body is a temple, we really do have to flee from it. And that's like the advice that I give people. You just can't put yourselves, this goes to my next point, you can't put yourselves in situations that you know you'll be tempted. And it was crazy because I went to for high school, I went to Catholic school, and I used to take theology classes. And I'm not Catholic, but I went to Catholic school. I like to say
I did too.
You did?
Yeah,
Really?
from kindergarten to 6th grade, I was in the Catholic school.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it was Catholic. It was all girls. So it was different, but I did love my high school, and I learned a lot through these theology classes I took. And I think this one was morality. And we asked our teacher, we used to ask her like, oh, I think it's like the term, was she a sister or not? And she was like, no, I'm not, but I don't like engage in these things. And we were like, okay. And we were like, so how far is too far? Like, let us know. And she was like, well, anything that gets you turned on is too far. And we were like, okay. And so she was like, kissing. She's like, yeah, you should probably not kiss, because if it's going to lead to this, it's going to lead to this. And I used to think like, dang, like that's strict. Like I can't do anything.
It's real strict around here.
But I get what she's saying now, because I'm like, this can lead to this, and you're gonna want to do this, and you're gonna keep going and keep going.
Yeah.
And then the next thing you know, you're just in the bed with your clothes off. So I'm like, you do have to stop yourself and not put yourself in situations to be tempted. I had to learn that in college. It's hard in college because you're living in dorms. You have this freedom for the first time away from your parents. So it's easy to call someone and be like, oh yeah, hey, come over. You can stay the night. You could do this. And I fell into that trap too. I would let people stay over, but it's so many things just wrong with that, and so many problems that it did cause. So now, as someone who's single, and like whenever God does send me my person, I'm going to move accordingly,
Yeah, I definitely have like some boundaries when it comes to that, for sure. And I'm still learning these things too. But like a couple of things that I've seen is like, I always loved the club. I'm going to be honest with you. And it wasn't even for necessarily the men. I wasn't that girl that was like scouting. I was more so the girl, like I love to dance and I love loud music. Like in my car is at full volume.
Yeah.
Yes. So it was like the one place where I could just go and not have to talk to anybody. And I could just listen to music and I could just dance all night.
Yeah.
So I've had some nights where I was with my cousin and we were completely sober and we just danced all night. So I love the club for that reason, but I also know that it came with all the other stuff too. And so like I just know for me, like that environment brings a certain type of men, like men and women around me, and also how it affects me. I know how it affects me, so I don't go. And also it's like when it comes to like, for example, like with me with alcohol, this is another thing. It's like I have learned that alcohol affects you different ways, right? And so I'm very cognizant of like what I'm taking in around men that I'm attracted to. So like if I'm like going out with a guy or whatever, I'm very aware of what I'm drinking and how much, if at all, honestly, because I know how it affects me. And I was just talking to my friend and one of my coaches a couple months ago. I remember my coach had asked me like, what's a trigger, for you to like eat a lot or whatever. And I told him, it was like one night I was like, oh, I had some drinks. And I remember sitting there and thinking about drinking, and I was like, drinking not only makes you like want to eat and you can't really be in touch with your body as far as like your hunger cues and stuff. But I was like, but also like it makes me really flirtatious. And I was like, and when I get flirty, I was like, I might not follow up and do anything, but when I go home, I'm sad about it.
Yeah.
Like if I don't have, like back in the day, you have that person to call, you had a boyfriend or whatever, it'll be different. But like, it makes me feel bad that I'm waiting. Like it makes me feel sad that I'm waiting.
Yeah.
And I don't want to put myself through that. And I don't want to put myself into a space where I feel sad for doing something right. And so it's like, not necessarily that drinking makes me have sex. I'm not like that. But I'm saying like drinking introduces something to my brain where that is what I want, or that type of attention, or that type of, I guess, spirit really is like what I'm like, it just influences me. And I don't want to put myself in that situation to even want that, to even think about that, or to feel bad about that.
Yeah.
And so that's just kind of one of those like boundaries for me. And then as I am like dating and doing different things, I know that I'm going to get different ones, like I'm sure like I might have to build a boundary around like it coming to your house. I don't know. So those are still things that I'm still learning, in this journey too.
I'm glad you mentioned the drinking thing. I was just having this conversation with my friends, and we were saying, okay, yeah, we do like to drink like wine, but it used to be like, oh, we were at the bar taking shots. And so it's like now we've all been talking about this and having this conversation. She was like, she recently like is trying to like re-give her life to Christ and like is really on fire for God. It's like when you rediscover the love of God, it's like, oh, she's excited. I'm like, I'm so excited for you. Like, I want to go on this journey with you. Like, I feel it. So we were talking about it. We were like, we don't want to get drunk. Like, you don't want to drink to get drunk. Like, you don't want to do that. It's not fun. It's not fulfilling. It's not like in college. Okay, yeah, but think about how we felt after. We all used to always talk about how we felt terrible the next morning. Like, I don't want to feel that anymore. And she was like, so if I do drink, maybe it'll be like a glass of wine, or I'll do this, but just a little bit, not too much to the point where I can't be in control of my body and like my actions. So I think that's definitely important.
And I don't think alcohol is for everybody.
Yeah,
I don't
that's
think
true.
anything is for everybody.
Yeah.
I don't think smoking is for everybody. I don't think that alcohol is for everybody. I think there's some people that like have a predisposition to be addicted to it. You know, or some people it affects them in really crazy ways. So I don't think it's for everybody. And I think like for me, like drinking is not my vice, right? So it's not something that I struggle with. So like for me, it's very easy for me to stop drinking.
Yeah.
It's very easy for me to just have a glass of wine with my food and be fine. But I've been around people where they can't just have one glass.
Yeah.
Like the way that it affects their brain is the same dopamine rush that I get when I eat because I'm a comfort eater. So it's the same thing. It's the same addiction. It's the same vice, right? So I don't think that it's for everybody.
Wow. See, I never thought about it like that, but that is true, because I've had this conversation with someone else and they were like, yeah, I just choose to not drink because I've seen how it's affected my family. And I know like in my family, we have addictive personalities. So I'm not even going to allow myself to partake in that. I'm like, that's really good. Like, I love that. That's good that you can recognize that and see that and stop yourself before it's too late.
Yeah.
And then me and my mom talk about that too. We have addictive personalities. So when it came to like smoking, I never tried it in college. And I would see how it affected other. Really? See, and I wanted to, like, people around me were doing it, and I was like, I want to see what it's like. Like, it doesn't seem like that bad, but I know I have an addictive personality, and my mom and I will make a joke when we go to the dentist office and we get like the laughing gas. We love how that feels. So she was like, we don't need anything stronger. Like, we don't. Yep. So we refrain from that. So that was funny to me.
No, I was definitely a smoker for sure.
But yeah, it's good when you've been delivered from things and God shows you a different way, like all the things that I used to feel like I needed and I wanted when it came to drinking and going out and doing this and doing that. God's like, you don't need these things to enjoy your life. And you mentioned that earlier, how people are scared to kind of come to God because they feel like they're going to have to get rid of so many things. And as you do, you start to realize those things that you were so scared of giving up, you don't even desire it anymore.
You don't.
And that's the craziest thing, because I used to feel that way too. I'm like, okay, I want to listen to God's calling on my life. I want to do this, but I'm going to have to give up this, and this. And like, yeah, in my mind now, it seems like I'm going to miss it. But the closer you get, the more it's like, I really don't even need that. Like,
yes, I have to tell people that all the time. I'm like, y'all, my life got so much more fun when I gave my life to Christ. I used to think that when I gave my life to Christ, my life was going to be boring and I was going to have to wear like floor length skirts and I was just going to be boring and dry. Yeah. No, when I tell you that, like, I've had so much fun because like when you have real fun, you look at everybody else and you're like, we were just doing the same old things. We were just going to the club every weekend. All the day parties were still about drinking. Yeah. All the parties were about drinking and smoking weed. Like, everything was so boring, you know? And I'm like, and we don't even like each other. That's why we got to drink, you know? Like, we don't even like each other. Yeah. And so whenever you're actually around real friends and y'all are present, you're able to connect with people better. And then you get to actually go and do adventurous things. Yes. You actually get to try new things, new classes. I actually have sisterhood now. You know, when you have real sisterhood that's not influenced by drugs and alcohol and all the things, that's real connection. Yeah. And so I've had so much more fun, and life gets better when you're more disciplined. It's just like how if you've been working out and now you can do more things, right? Like being fit, you unlock more things in life. It's the same concept with spiritual discipline. When you're more disciplined with what you do, what you listen to, that unlocks new levels of freedom in life.
Yeah, it does. And that's so crazy because it's so much truth to that. Like, in college, I used to think to myself, they were like, oh yeah, the party this weekend. I'm like, it was just a party last weekend. Like, I'm like, it's the same music, the same people, it's the same. I'm like, do we not get tired of that? And everybody was like, well, I'm going to the party. I'm like, okay, so y'all are just going to forget what I said. But it's true. Like, we get caught up in a pattern. We don't realize it. Now you've been doing the same thing for 4 years and there hasn't been any growth or any change. And me and my friends also had that conversation. We were like, let's do something different. Like, let's travel. Let's go here. Let's try this new restaurant tonight instead. Let's maybe stay home and maybe we can do these arts and crafts, or we can cook, or we can do just something different. Something something that gives us a new experience. And we were like, you know what? I kind of actually like this. Like, this was better.
Every time.
Yeah. And you realize I don't need that. Like, maybe that wasn't that fun. And I remember in college when we would go to the parties, we spend more time and more energy getting dressed and like getting cute, take pictures, and we get there, everybody just standing, and
Yep.
we're just like, we did this yet again, y'all. I'm ready to go. Like, what are we even doing here? And it's like, I don't know why we got so caught up in doing the same things, but I'm glad we got out of it, and we're trying new things now, because my friends and I said, we like to say we've upgraded like past the section birthday parties. Now we're going on trips, because my sister's birthday is in September, and we're going to Hawaii. So I'm like, I'm excited. Like, we're doing new things. We're going out. We're going on adventure. She sent us a message today about a hike. I was like, oh, girl, a hike? Like, that sounds hard. She's like, no, it's going to be fun. I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm down. Like, let's do it. Like, I'm ready to just try new things and just experience life on a whole new level. So I'm excited. It's good. I think that was pretty much all my questions. I think I wanted to talk a little bit about how to avoid temptation, but we touched on that. And then just challenges that we face while dating and waiting and dating God's way. I definitely like to tell people it's not going to be easy. Like, nothing in life is easy, but when you have God by your side, you're going to get through and be just fine. Like, and you're going to come out on the other side and be like, I'm glad I did all of these things. So when I'm talking to people and telling them, hey, maybe try waiting, or refrain from doing this, or don't put yourself in this situation. Or when you're feeling like this, maybe go outside or travel, or go to the store. Just distract yourself. Get yourself away from this situation where you're focusing on your fleshly desires. Like, go do something else. When I explain it to them, I'm like, I know it sounds easier than it actually is, but once you start doing it and you retrain your mind, it's going to get better.
Yeah, I have a lot to say about that. I'm trying to like organize my thoughts. So earlier you talked about love and lust, right? One thing that I'm learning, it's actually crazy. One of my friends, he's a guy, he sent me this thread like not even 2 days ago, and it was red flags that turned out to be green flags. And I think right now I'm living in this experience of seeing that what I thought was love was lust. And real love is very different. And I just went through this. I've been visiting a new church, and they taught on a series, and they taught love in a way that was so biblical that it made so much sense. Where it's like, love doesn't rush, right? But lust does. Now people refer to it as love bombing. They have all these, new terms, right? But like lust and things that are not of God, it feels rushed. Everything feels very forced. Like I remember that I used to really think that somebody cared about me when they would blow my phone up or pull up on me or be upset if I didn't pick up the phone. And like, they were all in my face. Like, I just viewed that intensity as passion. And I didn't realize that that's really not love. That's not healthy love.
Yeah.
And now I'm experiencing healthy love in friendships, and I'm experiencing it, in different ways. And it's beautiful because it's so calm. It's so chill. Like it's not something that's forced or quick like that. It's something that has the Spirit of God over it.
Yeah.
And so whenever you're operating outside of Christ, it's going to feel very like rushed and quick. And I used to love that feeling, because I used to be like, oh, this person really serious about me because they all over me, and just like the way that I used to function, the way that I used to process things, like none of that was love. That's all lust. It's lust, and it's also an unhealthy, toxic love.
Yeah.
And like 1 Corinthians 13 literally spells out the characteristics of love. And I remember looking at that verse, and I was very intrigued by it, especially the part about it keeps no record of wrongdoings, because I do that. And I was a very heavy grudge holder, and my love could get very transactional at times. And I've been studying that biblically to figure out why I do it, and also what does God say about it. And so I started researching love, because love is a very interesting concept to me, because the thing that's so cool about love to me is like, whether you're a believer or not, it's something that everybody wants. And it's something that everybody finds beautiful. Yeah. We make so many movies about it. We make TV shows about it. Every song is essentially about it. Like, it's almost like everybody is obsessed with love. And it's so beautiful because it's one thing that everybody can agree on. It's the only thing that everybody agrees on. So I find it kind of like powerful in a way. So I was like researching, And there's a scripture that talks about God is love. And I just thought that that was so powerful because I'm like, this one thing that everybody agrees on, they're searching for is God. So when you think about
that's
girl,
good.
right? So when you think about sex, when you think about dating, when you think about those moments where a stranger makes you feel pretty because they said you look good today, when you think about any positive experience you've ever had, it's been some form of love.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all of those feelings that's God. All of that. All of that is created by God. That's a glimpse of what it feels like to be in God's presence. And so I just became obsessed with the concept of it because I was like, God, I'm so fascinated by how you love and you being loved. And I was just researching and just learning more stuff. And it's beautiful. Honestly, like love is such a beautiful thing. And like, I realized for me, like I became that way. I became transactional and stuff when I did feel like things were one-sided, or I would struggle with the keeps no record of wrongdoing. But once I was taught biblical principles of what love and marriage looks like, everything made a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So I think for me now, dating as a Christian woman is interesting. Because where you go to church matters and just the circles that you're in matters. I'm around a lot of men of God and women of God. And I've been so lucky to have a village of godly women. So I've watched my friends go from single to wives. And now some of my friends have kids.
I love that.
And I've watched how the Lord has orchestrated for them to meet their husbands. So I have real life examples. So that's one way that I am blessed, is I've been able to see how that happens and see how peaceful it was. And I've been able to talk to my brothers in Christ about men. So now I'll talk to them and their husbands and ask them questions, and they got my back. So that's really cool. So that's an area that I'm not lacking in, is I do have a good village that helps a lot. But I think that right now, I think Philip Anthony Mitchell was talking about dating as women, and he was talking about how there really isn't as many brothers right now, you know, as women. And that if you're a woman who is saved and you're looking for marriage, you know, that there is kind of like a struggle, I guess, happening now.
Yeah.
And so it's hard. It's hard. And honestly, like I did get, you know, a word from God, you know, about me being, you know, anointed for marriage. So I know that I am going to be married, but 28 was a really hard year for me, just because I'm 29 now, but 28 was a hard year for me because you do kind of have that clock, right? Where you are like, okay, I'm approaching 30 and my life isn't how I thought it would look. Right. And that's a very real feeling.
Yeah.
So I have to validate that feeling for so many women, especially when I look around at a lot of churches and you see the majority of Black women serving these churches, and a lot of them are single. Let's just be honest. A lot of them are single. And so I think that a lot of Christian women are going through these seasons where they're really looking to the Lord for marriage. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. I think there's nothing wrong with wanting to be married.
Yeah.
But I think once it consumes you and it, you know, controls your behavior, that's when it becomes an issue. But I see some women sometimes in comments who are in their 40s and they've been waiting on the Lord. And I have so much empathy. I have so much empathy because if I felt that way at 28, 29 years old, I couldn't imagine how they feel. And I think that, I don't know, I think that the church definitely could do a better job of like helping these women.
Yeah.
Because it's usually a lot of married women giving them advice. But when you're in that space, sometimes you just need to be heard. And sometimes you don't want to hear from those people, if I'm just being honest.
Yeah.
You know, because it's like, it sucks.
It's like, you can't relate right now. Yeah.
Yes. You know what I'm saying? If you've been abstaining for sex for 10 years, that sucks. I'm just going to be honest. It sucks. And so I just have so much of an empathy for these women. I do. And I'm so passionate about seeing Black women become wives. You know, I really want to see more Christian Black women become wives. And I love when I do get to see it. I love that my friends are Black women who are wives. I love that, you know, and I love to see that in the church. So I do think that there is an uprising of men in the church, which has been beautiful. I think I saw a statistic today saying that right now there's like more religious men than women, which is crazy. But yeah, so there is a rise in them. And I definitely think that, I know that the Lord honors marriage And I think that it's such a beautiful thing. I think that the waiting season can have its moments where it is hard.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when you really do have to lean on the Lord to be your everything. He
Yeah.
has to fill you, He has to keep you whole during those
Yeah.
times. Because if you get on social media and start looking at boo boo that got just proposed to, and then this person get proposed to, this person get
Yes.
proposed to,
Mm-hmm.
it can be hard. It can
Mm-hmm.
be so hard sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you can really be happy for people, but in those moments, you just feel sad,
Yeah.
And it's important to have friends who have space and capacity to
Mm-hmm.
understand that,
Mm-hmm.
And my friends have done a great job of being in my life even after they got married.
Mm-hmm.
My friends didn't just neglect me when they found their husbands,
That's a blessing. Yeah.
Yes, I have great friends and I want to be that friend too.
Mm-hmm.
And I also want to be that person when I am married. I also want to have that empathy for women who are still waiting because I
Mm-hmm.
know what that feels like.
Yeah.
And so it's hard. It's a hard space to navigate. But my best advice, honestly, is God has to be your everything.
Mm-hmm.
If He's not, and you're around worldly people or you're around people that are not understanding of where you are, it's going to make it so much harder for you.
Mm-hmm.
But those feelings are so valid. Those
Yeah.
feelings are so valid. The feeling of becoming 30, like as much as we know that we shouldn't have a clock, I'm telling you that feeling is real.
Yeah.
And I acknowledge it, and I acknowledge those women, I acknowledge that space.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's so important to just meet women in that space and to understand what they're going through versus like constantly throwing biblical like advice at them. I
Yeah.
think it's important sometimes just to hold space for them and just to say like, I just want to sit with you in this moment.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely have had those moments. And now I'm in a better season of my life where I am just happy,
Yeah.
just taking things kind of day by day. And I'm just like, Lord, we're going to see.
And that's so good. You said so many good points, but it's so important. You have to make God your everything. Even at 23, I still get like worried. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm young, but I had a 5-year plan in college. I always say this. I'm like, I was supposed to be married right now. So I understand that too. A degree of not wanting to have my person by a certain age and wanting that, but I think it's important. You do have to make God your everything, because if you don't, sometimes you'll start to feel like, oh, I need to take matters into my own hands. And then you start talking to all these people and you might find yourself settling because you want somebody at this time so badly, and you'll like kind of disregard, okay, maybe I don't need this, you know what, this person has this, so this is good enough. And you don't want to find yourself in a situation where you have become like one with this person that is not who God had you to be with, is not in line with who He wanted you to be with. So it's definitely important to make Him your everything, keep your eyes on Him, because you don't want to get off course and be in a situation that might not have been what He had planned. So important. True. But this has been so good. Oh my gosh.
This was good.
I'm so excited for this episode to go out, because I think people definitely need to hear this. And a lot of my audience is women, and it's between the ages of like 18 to like 35. So I like to make sure that everything I talk about, everybody like can kind of relate to, especially just like young women. And I think this will be like a good eye opener for a lot of people, especially with a big majority of that being college women. As you're starting your college journey and experience, keep these things in mind. Even though you're young, God still wants you to enjoy your life, but He wants you to do it the right way. He wants you to live for Him, even in this environment that you're in. Still be on fire for God, be on fire for living your life for Christ, and just keep Him at the forefront. And I talked to one of my friends the other day, and she was like, I had to have this realization that God still wants me to have like a personality. Like He doesn't want me to lose who I am completely and just super over spiritualize everything. Like He still wants me to enjoy my life. He just wants me to do it the right way. And I'm like, yes, exactly. Like maybe that does mean changing the way you dress, but it doesn't mean that you still can't be a fashionista. Like you can still be cute and be modest at the same time. Like there's still things you can do, so you're not going out seeking validation for your body. But when men see you and people look at you, they see something different. They're not looking at you for that. So it's a lot of lessons to be learned, and I'm definitely still learning at this age, and I want to continue to grow and gain exposure. But I'm so glad
I want to say one thing real quick. I wanted to say just a tip of advice that really helped me. I remember Pastor Taylor was talking about how she did, I think it was like a year that she did like it was just her and God. And I never forgot that, and so I did it. And I remember like for a point of time I did no men, like no, like if they texted me, I didn't respond. And when they were DMing me, I would either say, I wouldn't say anything,
Mm-hmm.
or if I was attracted to them, I would say, hey, for so and so amount of time, I'm talking to no men because I just want to spend time with the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that, and I was adamant about no interaction with men, just me, God, and my sisters.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that for a period of time. And honestly, like that, I had like a year and 2 months where I just did me and the Lord,
Mm-hmm.
honestly. And it was such a beautiful season of life.
Mm-hmm.
That whole time wasn't no men, but the majority of that time was me focusing on my work with God.
Mm-hmm.
And when I tell you that year changed my life, it changed my life. I think that every woman should take at least, maybe 3 months to just not interact with any men and to figure out, first of all, who she is, understand and sit with what it feels like to be alone and to be happy and at peace, but also to really dive deep into her walk with the Lord and to create that personal relationship,
Mm-hmm.
because that's what established me to where I am, who I am now.
Yeah.
All of this happened during that time where I just took that time, and during that time I went to therapy.
Mm-hmm.
During that time I watched a lot of sermons, I researched a lot of things, and that was that year. And it also ministered to men.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember there was this one guy that tried to, talk to me or whatever, and I responded to him and I was like, like, I'm attracted to you, but I am doing no men right now because
Yep.
I want to spend time with the Lord. And I
Yeah.
was like, so get at me in so and so months. And I remember he responded and he was just like, a woman in 2023, I think it was 2023. He was like, a woman in 2023 that actually cares about God and, is respectful and all
Mm-hmm.
the things. And he was just like blown away by that. So like men had so much respect for me.
Yeah.
And it was also ministering to them that there were still good women out there that
Mm-hmm.
weren't going to be all over them,
Yeah.
And so I think that is something that every woman should do. I think every woman should have a season where she's by herself and she is not entertaining any men.
I love that.
Yes.
That's actually, you know what? I'm going to try that because I'm excited about that. I think
Yes.
I need that because now that I'm looking at it, I realize how many of like my stressors and problems come from interactions with men. So just to swear them off for a little bit would actually be nice. I'm gonna take you up on that advice, and I'm gonna do that. And I think everyone else should too, because that's really good. I think that's good. Even if it's just for a few months, I think that's definitely necessary to rebuild that relationship with God, talk to Him, and just focus your mind on Him. I think that'll be really good. But thank you so much for coming on. This was great, y'all. I can't wait for y'all to see this and hear your feedback on everything. I know it's going to be wonderful because this was really helpful. Like I definitely needed to hear a lot of this as well. So thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in to Her Reality Check. And be sure to follow us on social media on Instagram at Her Reality Check Podcast and subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's the same name. And I can't wait to see y'all next time. Love you. Bye.